I'm Stephen John Drew from the official GonnaGeek.com show, a weekly geek news podcast that is a part of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other awesome geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
Stand by for a brand new episode of All Things Good and Nerdy.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 456 of the All Things Good and Nerdy podcast / live show / whatever you want to call us. This is recorded live on Sunday. I am Chris. Joining me, as per usual, start first, Mr. Willie Dean.
Hello! It's Sunday morning. How are you beautiful people doing?
Swell, Willie. I'm swell. Also joining us today, he may have also wrangled someone into coming and joining us this morning, Mr. Anthony Bachman.
What's up, fuckers? I did. I feel sorry for Chris because apparently he's swollen. He said he's swell, so he's swollen. He looks swollen.
I see what you did there, and I don't really care for it.
Too bad.
And now I'm feeling self-conscious and don't want to be on camera. So while I'm feeling self-conscious, why don't you introduce today's guest so I can get myself back in order?
Thanks, Captain Fathead.
That didn't help.
That's just rude.
I know. I don't know what's up with me this morning. Yeah, we got ourselves a returning guest, so happy to have him back. Everybody's favorite fan of my brain's not working. Calvin and Hobbes in Sin City. He's a big lover of Dorothy Gale, all things Oz, and he's done more for the Boy Scouts than anybody I've heard of in the last 20 years. Welcome back, David Pepos.
Hey, fellas. Thank you guys so much for having me. Excited to be on the show.
Well, thank you for coming back to join us again. We know it's super early out on the West Coast for you, so you're probably needing the caffeine this morning.
Yeah, no, it's early. But you know, we have a puppy at home now, so every day is kind of early. So yeah, no, I'm excited to catch up with you guys, especially because we have another Kickstarter for the OZ that's going to be launching in just over 1 week.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I will say this: you've got the puppy. I've got my dog is 13 years old, and he still gets up at 5 a.m. and is like, "Hey, I'm ready to go out." And I'm like, "It's the weekend, buddy. Go back to sleep."
Yeah.
Yeah, but is it for the opposite reason? The puppy can't hold it because it's a puppy, and then the 13-year-old can't hold it because he's fucking 145 years old. He's like, motherfucker, I need to go to the bathroom.
No, this dog's still got an iron bladder, thankfully. He just wants to go outside.
Ruby actually is litter box trained.
Ooh, nice.
Nice.
It's just,
Wait, are you serious?
I'm serious. And so she would much rather do that than go on a walk. Weirdly
Nice.
enough, but she would much rather be with me at any given moment. And the moment that she wakes up, she's like, "Oh, please take me outside. Please put me on the couch with you. Please take me out of my pen."
I have an instant question.
Yes.
Does it kick the kitty litter to like out of the box?
Not on purpose. There's sometimes a little bit that kind of flies out when she
A
jumps
little
out.
over exaggerated.
But she's not like kicking it. She's not like, purposefully doing that. But yes, there's a lot of vacuuming and a lot of sweeping.
It's the upside of a small dog. It wouldn't work with a German Shepherd. Or
Yes. Yes.
like a big Roddy.
Although I would love to
That's
see
one
the
of the
litter
size of
box
litter
you
box.
have for a German Shepherd, though.
I'll see the size of the litter box my neighbor would have. They have a Saint Bernard, which I think is just mean in an apartment complex. The dog's got to be 200 pounds. It's a
Oh my
huge
gosh.
Saint
Wow.
Bernard. They live in an apartment. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Get a small
That's a
dog.
lot.
I don't like.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I don't personally like small dogs, but if you're gonna live in an apartment, you should have a small dog.
Yeah.
Having a Saint Bernard just seems like torture.
Yeah. Ruby's
for the
only 20
dog's
pounds, so actually, or a little less. So
Yeah, the folks up the road have a Great Dane in our townhouse community, and I never see them walking said Great Dane. I'm like, man, that dog's got to have so much energy.
that's wild.
That's so sad.
The biggest dog I've ever seen. I was so amazed. That dog was bigger than me if it stood up.
Wait, what was it?
I'm pretty sure it was a Great Dane. I don't
Probably,
know dog
yeah.
breeds.
A
But
Dane or
I
a
was-
Mastiff. A
Yeah,
Dane or
it
a
was
Mastiff is probably
giant.
the biggest dog you'll ever see.
Yeah,
or whatever
I was like,
those Newfoundlands.
I've never seen anything even close to that size before. I was like, what?
I had friends that had a Shepherd Mastiff mix. It was the sweetest dog you ever met, but
shit.
he was stupid strong and didn't realize it was the thing. So like he'd get really excited
Oh,
to see
bet.
people, and like he'd jump up, and I kid you not, if he jumped up, he'd put his paws on my shoulders and be staring at me eye to
Mhm.
eye, and he would
Mhm.
just start leaning, and I'm like, holy crap, you're strong. And he thought he was a
Oh,
lap
yeah.
dog still.
Nice.
Aw.
Yeah, Mastiffs, if I remember correctly, the bull mastiff is the only dog that can bite through a human femur. Like their jaw power is strong enough to bite
Yeah.
a human's leg off. Like
He-
they're big fucking dogs.
He was stupid
Yikes.
strong, and I mean that just because he never realized how strong he was. So like you would just be sitting there and be like, oh my god, he's leaning on me.
Yeah, he's looking at the humans like, I'll love him, I'll pet him, and I'll call him George.
I like puppies.
They're great.
They are. My dog's asleep in his dog bed right next to my desk right now. He just came down and was like, I'm used to this basement thing after you working from home for the last year. I'm just going to sleep. And I was like, thank
Nice.
goodness.
I don't even know.
I'm over here getting used to living with the girlfriend's cat, which she keeps telling me that I should get the game Stray when it comes out and then just put Honey Pie on camera because she looks like the cat that's in that new game Stray.
See, the,
Chris,
the cats
you
aren't
know
allowed in the
the
podcast studio because they decide they have to try and, get on camera or wake up the dog or just be menaces.
Knock everything off
Yes.
the edge.
So the office door is shut, and occasionally, if you listen, you'll hear someone scratching at the door, making pitiful meowing noises because she thinks she needs in. She doesn't.
Oh, when you open the door, they'll go and like look in, like, that's cool. Keep
Then
the
leave.
fucking door open.
Well, the one cat, Talia, will sit down here as long as you'll let her because I had a bird feeder out in the back deck here. And so the birds would just sit here. So she'll just sleep in front of the sliding glass door in my basement and just watch the birds.
Sorry. Speaking of which, that was
Oh,
Ruby
that's
expressing her complaints about something that's outside.
She's like,
Yeah,
or
Ruby
her own
hates birds too.
she's like, they're not paying attention to me. I will redirect that attention immediately.
There you
Yeah,
go. There you
she
go.
she thinks she's protecting us from something, but it's usually her own reflection. And
Yeah.
hasn't quite figured out that mean ugly dog that lives in the television set or in the mirrors or in the windows it's just her.
Well, we know, Ruby. It's okay.
She's on our balcony. She's mad about something.
There's
We're
that
being
other,
terrible.
there's that damn dog that she's seeing right in the window right now.
Listen. I've seen this before. It's like a Link to the Past. It's the dark version. Dark Link, Dark Ruby. Protect
Yeah.
me from there. Poltergeist, things in the TV. It's coming to get you. Watch out, Carol Ann.
This house is clear.
That's my girlfriend's favorite line from that movie.
I love that old lady.
She says that all this house is clean.
I was so creeped out when I was a kid because honestly, when that movie came out, I was 7. My little sister was 5 years old. We were both towhead blondes, and she wore like a nightgown, and my sister used to sleepwalk. So I had multiple nights where I would wake up and my sister would be in the living
That's
room
terrifying.
watching a TV that was nothing but static, and she was not awake.
That's terrifying.
Scared the
Yikes.
way scarier that movie, but it was because we had seen that movie, and I don't know, something about it got into her subconscious along with her sleepwalking. So yeah, at 5 years old, and like she had the little blonde hair all the way down to her elbows, and she would fucking walk around the house and go and sit in the living room and just sit there with the TV turned on. And back then, you turn the TV on at 2 a.m, there's nothing but static. Yeah, she never said they're here, but
Can you imagine if she'd said they're here? How scarred you'd be for life right now.
Thankfully, I mean, as messed up as it was of all the different times my sister sleepwalked when we were kids, she never talked. She couldn't talk while she was sleepwalking, so she could get up and move and like open doors and like go around the house, which was crazy enough. But yeah, she didn't talk, so at least it wasn't that bad. Oh shit, scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, that would be terrifying. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I would be terrified.
Yeah, it
Does
wasn't
anyone
fun.
else sleptwalk?
I have very occasionally, and I haven't done it in years.
feel
I
I've
never
done it
have. Just once.
Weird. I believe so. I think it was like a long time ago. Like I was in my teens. I just remember waking up and someone was like, "What are you doing?" Like, bed. Oh, I'm in the kitchen.
Now,
Dead.
I have held conversations with people while asleep because then I'll be like, hey, do you remember when you said such and such? I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, it was last night. And I was like, I went to bed at like 11 o'clock. What are you talking about? And I have no kidding, had legitimate conversations with people that I don't remember when I was asleep.
Nice.
Were they legitimate conversations?
As far as I can tell from how it was relayed back to me is that I was actually responsive and I was saying things that made sense. And I'm like, I have no idea how.
Dude, you came up with the perfect fix for the economy, dude. I can't remember what it was. What'd you say? I can't remember.
Knowing my luck, that's probably what it would have been. But that would require me to have to become involved in politics, and that's not happening.
No.
I don't have the disposition for that, I don't think.
Oh, your own personal economy. How's that?
My own personal economy is save and hoard all my money so I can buy nice, shiny things.
There you go.
No.
I got some shiny things on the way. I got some magic
That's
things on the way. Yeah.
The Gathering?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
No.
Too.
The spoon.
I'd say it's not Friday Night Magic. What the hell you
No, I got some magic of the spoon coming.
But hey, we're talking about
It's a magic spoon cereal.
magic things and shiny things we might have coming. That gives us a nice transition to be like, hey, if you guys play your cards right, you might have some magic shiny things heading your way. Because correct me if I'm wrong, David, we're about to start another Kickstarter for you, correct?
Yes, we are. We're going to be kicking off the OZ's second Kickstarter Monday, August 16th. So 8 days to go. We have a pre-launch page at bit.ly/theozcomic. So if you want to sign up, that way you'll get an alert as soon as the campaign goes live next Monday morning. But yeah, I'm thrilled to be bringing the series back. It'll be almost a year to the day since our last Kickstarter began. Yeah, for those who aren't familiar with the book, the OZ is kind of like, what if the Hurt Locker took place in the Wizard of Oz? It's the story of Dorothy Gale's granddaughter, who's a disillusioned Iraq war veteran who's grappling with trauma and depression from her time overseas. But as things tend to do, her small Kansas town is hit by a rampaging tornado. And this new Dorothy finds herself stranded in the war-torn land of Oz. And so our series follows Dorothy as she's kind of navigating her grandmother's former friends as she hopes to survive the horrors of the occupied zone, or as the locals call it, the OZ. I'm super thrilled with how the book is coming together. Artist Ruben Rojas is delivering beautiful work along with colorist Whitney Kogar and letterer DC Hopkins. And we've got a murderer's row of cover talent involved in the book. We're going to have 4 covers for this series, for this second issue, like we did the last Kickstarter. And
that's good because I got all 4 in the last one. I got to keep the trend going.
Yes. No, we wanted to make sure we had something for everyone. Just some different. Yep. There's my pup Ruby. We got her as we were doing fulfillment for the last Kickstarter, so it's all coming full circle. But yeah, I'm really excited about the second issue. For anyone who's read my work, you know that the first issue is usually the quiet issue. And now that we've established Dorothy, now that we've established Oz, now we're really kind of able to really explore the world and introduce new characters. So if you like the Cowardly Lion, you're going to love our twist on him. In our second issue, he plays a very big role in this second installment. Jack Pumpkinhead, we're going to see a lot of him. We're going to get to see more of the Scarecrow and sort of his agenda in the occupied zone. Nice. And some fun beats with Toto. Toto's sort of my favorite character in the whole series, so getting to see him do some very cool stuff in this next issue. Yeah, it's just it's been a long time coming, but I think our backers are going to learn. I hope they're going to realize this book, I think, is definitely going to be worth the wait.
I know. I'm excited for it.
The real question is, are we going to get flying monkeys in every issue?
There's a little bit of flying monkeys in this one. Not as much as the first issue. We'll see more of them in the third issue, but there's a little bit of winged monkeys in this one.
I love his design on them. The paramilitarized flying monkeys, just the helmets. It's so good. It's so damn good.
It was seeing what Ruben Rojas did for those winged monkeys. It was super cool. I was basically like, yeah, just think of like roving bands of like guerrilla fighters, like, but they're actually apes. Ruben just, that's the great part about working with somebody as talented as Ruben. He loves kind of doing different takes on the designs, and because he's a big fan of like fantasy, he's able to kind of inject little bits of that into the work. He loves fantasy and he loves post-apocalyptic stuff. And so the OZ really kind of is a nice sweet spot for all of Ruben's interests. And seeing some designs. In fact, if I've been posting, his main cover for the next issue. I don't think that's a secret. And so you get to see a little bit of his design on the lion, and it's very cool. I'm pretty sure that's Ruben's favorite character to draw in the whole series. So we're gonna see some really fun moments with those characters for sure here.
Yeah, I know I'll be backing it probably day one. As soon as it pops up, I'll be like, back and tweet.
Please. Yeah, I will say anybody listening to this, the way that Kickstarter tends to work is, you get placed higher in their algorithm based on the first 48 hours of pledging. And so to incentivize that, we actually are going to have some early bird specials. So if you back in the first 48 hours and you want, either the main cover, or you want the variant, or you want the catch up tier if you missed out on our first Kickstarter, you want issues 1 and 2. We are offering those for a discount price for just the first 48 hours. So keep sharing, keep backing. Any dollar amount counts. But that said, if you're looking for more than just a single issue, we also have a lot of different other reward tiers as well. We've got all of my trades. We've got bundled sets for all of those. We've got a couple limited edition Spencer and Locke handcrafted plushies. And my favorite is people have been asking me for a long time, where can you get Ranger Scout merit badges for Scouts Honor? And so we will be giving away 3 full sets of all 14 Ranger Scout merit badges.
Wait, but there's only 3 sets of them?
Only 3.
Oh, we got to get there early, kids.
12:01 a.m. Be there.
And some other fun, Kickstarter exclusive things. You can get drawn into the book. There's a tier for cameos. There's you can even get original artwork from Ruben himself. Any character you want, he'll do a black and white headshot. So he did a pretty cool. He did one of the Thundercats last time. He did a Swamp Thing that looked really incredible. Definitely, those are going to go by real fast, I think. So if you're interested in getting kind of a huge package deal with a whole bunch of covers and a whole bunch of trades and getting yourself drawn into the book, you're going to want to jump on that soon, early on, I think, because those tiers tend to fly off the shelf pretty fast.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Chris, can you share my screen? I put up the cover he was talking about that Ruben's got.
I am not currently well equipped to be able to do a screen share out of Skype using NDI at the moment, but we can put a link to it in the show notes for folks to get to.
Okay. I also, I retweeted on my Twitter. So it's from Ruben's Twitter, which is Ruben_Rojas.
I think it's
exactly how you think.
I think it's a double underscore, which is
it looks like it looks like double.
Underscore.
Yep, you are correct. Yep. So RUBEN__ROJAS. Yeah, he's got some Moon Knight pages on there too. Like that, the man's a hell of an artist.
Yeah, he's really terrific, and so I've been thrilled to be working with him on this series, and hopefully this is just the first of many books that we'll be doing together.
Yeah, so I had no idea that Kickstarter weighed so heavily the first 48 hours. So lesson learned for anyone's wanting to back projects out there. The sooner you jump on it, the better it is for the life of those projects.
100%. Because really for me, it's this is probably a terrible thing for somebody who's like a professional writer, but like for me, it's never about the sales numbers because that's just going to go towards more projects. For me, it's always about just how many readers we can get on board. And so I'm very curious, I to see how many readers we'll get in the second installment. I'm going into it with no expectations because, there's a pandemic on and, it's a second Kickstarter. But so far, we've got over 450 people as followers on our pre-launch page. And like I said, you can sign up for that at bit.ly/the OZ and that way you'll get an alert as soon as the Kickstarter goes live. And then you can jump on and you can get some of these exclusive rewards, if that's something that you're into. The other cool thing about this Kickstarter campaign is we really learned our lesson from the last one. I didn't know how it was going to be received. And so I kind of set a very conservative goal and expected that it would take 30 days to get to that point. We're still doing a conservative goal because, like I said, it's not about the money for me. But we've got some stretch goal ideas. That's kind of, that's some cool stuff. If you liked any of our stretch goals last time, we've got some cool stuff in store for you. It's one of those books that it's been a long time coming, and boy, I'm just as excited to see it come to fruition as you guys are.
Yeah, I think we're all super excited because we've been talking about it with you for quite a while now. I mean, I think we even started talking about this earlier on when you were on discussing some other books with us, and you're like, "Hey, here's what's coming," and we went, "Ooh, yeah, I'm intrigued." So one thing I was curious about though is you did all of the first Kickstarter and whatnot through the middle of the pandemic, so you're pretty much not able to go do convention season things like that. Did that drastically alter how you had your original plans and how you were going to spread the word of mouth or talk about it with folks?
So the pandemic changed. I think the Kickstarter was my response actually to the pandemic. Because it was one of those things. I think, especially when Diamond had it shut down and all the publishers, suddenly their acquisitions pipelines like significantly narrowed. That was the kind of the stuff that I was like, that was kind of was like, I need to figure something out. I need to pivot. And my friend Charlie Stickney, the creator of White Ash and co-publisher over at Scout Comics, he had been telling me for a long time, you should try Kickstarter. Not only is it a good way, is a financially equitable way to make comics, because you're not sort of making a cut with a distributor, you're not making a cut with a publisher, but also just, it's a totally different demographic. There are some Wednesday warriors who, they do go to Kickstarter as well, but there are some people who they don't go to a comic shop. They just buy their books exclusively online, whether that's on Kickstarter or Amazon or through Webtoons. And that was a whole different readership that I was doing no outreach to. And so that was kind of me solving one problem with another, was saying, okay, like I want to introduce myself to the Kickstarter community and I want to give the OZ a good home. This is a great way to introduce ourselves with our absolute A game. And, but yeah, for me, really the big learning curve of that Kickstarter was just, I was sort of, it was a sense of scale and timing. I assumed, it's going to take 30 days to earn this money. And sort of, how do we get to the finish line with our goal intact? Not realizing, oh no, we blew through that goal in 2 hours. And now how are we going to keep the momentum going for another 30 days? So thankfully, I've learned my lesson from that. And so we have plans and backup plans and backup plans and backup plans. Just some really cool stuff, for potential stretch goals. All I can say is things like, if you liked our Winged Monkey pin, which was awesome. Our enamel pen, for example, from the last Kickstarter, you may want to tell your friends to share and back, because we might have something very cool in that vein in store. Some really fun, some really fun artwork that we could use to sort of enhance the final product. It's been fun kind of seeing it all come together, and I'm just excited to keep talking about the book and just kind of keep trying to introduce new people to it. That's really sort of my goal for all of this, is to just keep spreading the word and to kind of keep inviting new readers to join us here at the table.
I mean, and it might be a mixed blessing. You're also not launching a Kickstarter at the same time as Scott Snyder this time.
Well,
hopefully, you don't know.
It's true.
Actually, real talk, Scott launching his Kickstarter, we actually launched on the same day, Scott and I. And honestly, it was the best thing that could happen to me. Real talk. Kickstarter, it's funny. It's different than the direct market. It's like another world with its own laws of physics. And yeah, if Scott had like pulled a Beyonce in the direct market and just dropped like a brand new series, like an image book, like sight unseen, if I was in the direct market, that would have been a headshot, like just, well, there's nothing you can do. Scott's going to, take over the sort of the airwaves with that. But doing a Kickstarter, that's their business model, is if you back one project, they are going to constantly be pushing other projects on you.
Okay.
Because they want, that's their business model. They want to get everybody funded because they take their cut. And so anytime somebody would back Nocterra, they would get emails saying, oh, hey, there are other projects live right now that you might like, and the OZ was usually one that was mentioned. So honestly, I didn't
even consider that part.
And as someone that's backed over 200 projects, the majority of them being comics, I get a lot of emails from Kickstarter.
And so I think we started with kind of like the world's biggest headwind at our backs, and so I think that helped us in a big way. I think we were during Keanu Reeves's Kickstarter as well, and that took a little bit more of the air out of the room, I think, for everybody. But still, there was still kind of a constant churn of people checking out Kickstarter.
Yeah, it put a lot of eyes on it. Plus, and let's all notice this: I've received my OZ Kickstarter, my awesome sticker, my comic, all the stuff I backed. I haven't gotten a Berserker nothing yet. So I'm just saying.
It's it's tough, and I understand they're operating at a different sense of scale, and they've got certain directives. I think.
Plus, theirs is attached to Boom as well. I think so. I think they have a different publishing schedule. I don't think they could just do a run. Like they have to do whatever Boom's doing with the book.
Yeah, exactly. And figuring, I don't know exactly like what the production sort of timetable is on it. I assume they're still working on it. But yeah, having, being in the same sort of Kickstarter class as Scott and Keanu, it was daunting. It was certainly intimidating. Who knows who's going to be, launching a Kickstarter during that time. Unfortunately, one thing that I would love to do for Kickstarter in the future is kind of have like a green room almost, where it's like if you've got a project coming out in like a week, that there's sort of a group chat or something, just being like, hey, do you guys want to talk about it? But I
think you'd also have to get everyone into that mindset. Like I didn't have the mindset until you told me about it, that competition or other people is good versus direct market, where if someone else comes out, it's just going to nuke me at the exact same time. And maybe other people aren't quite. I mean, I wouldn't have made that connection until you talked about it, so it's entirely possible others aren't either.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the thing is I do think a lot of people, there's still that mindset of like, oh, somebody big is launching and it's going to take away from my Kickstarter, and it's like, no, I don't think that's the case. I think you just have to, it's all about collaboration. It's all about signal boosting each other, and really kind of cross pollinating your readership a bit. And of course, that some of that comes down to, is the book ready for prime time? Is it of sort of a professional quality that people will say, oh, like I'm willing to drop a higher than normal price point,
sure,
to get this exclusive comic. And some of it's also, I know people say like, oh, if I haven't seen them backing other people's Kickstarters, that kind of sometimes raises some suspicion. And so I've made it a point for a long time to be, I think, a pretty prolific Kickstarter backer. I think I've backed over 400 projects.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're at 443, man. You even got me beat.
443.
443.
It's just, there's a lot of deserving independent books out there. And that's sort of my way of kind of giving back what I can to the community. Because I know what it's like, that you're kind of rolling the dice on yourself and you have no idea, is this thing on? And, I have the feeling most of these people on Kickstarter, unless they are sort of a wild runaway success, like we've been so fortunate to be, most of them are making these books at a loss. It's sort of a loss leader to see if they can kind of sell them, long term and recoup their investment. So yeah, like if anything, that makes me more predisposed to back these projects. You know, it's super accessible. It's true independent writers and artists, and you know, you get to see kind of a side of the industry that you might not see, even if you are a diehard Wednesday warrior and going to your comic shop every week. So I consider it very additive.
And I will say, as someone who I haven't backed near as many Kickstarter projects as either of you two, I've never really been burned on anything comic related or board game related. But when you start talking about the tech side of the house, that's where it's a bit more daunting, and you might need to be more concerned about looking at the history of folks. A lot of the folks that you see in the comic and board game ones are folks that have a passion, that want to do something and have the greatest of intentions of finishing out. Some folks underestimate, I think, the difficulty of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't seen anything I would consider like a scam on the comic or board game side like I have on the tech side, where I was like, I'd back that, but that's totally a scam. I know when I get that, it's going to be a piece of crap.
Yeah.
And you still got it?
I've only been, okay, so if you go to the official GonnaGeek.com show, this is early on, there is something I bought that was called the Clausio, I can't remember what it was, the company was Clausio, that was supposed to be like a combination portable device that would do Google Assistant, Amazon voice services, things like that, play music, and was battery powered, you could move it around, and it was just a piece of crap when you got it. It was basically an El Cheapo Android tablet fused into a speaker dock that they'd written some custom code on, and it was just terrible. I ran it for 30 minutes and went, okay, I should have known better. I haven't done that in any of my comic projects that I've backed where I've gone, oh, I should have known better. I haven't.
And I got a couple where like it's still, there's a couple I think from over 3 years ago that I still haven't received, and there's some creators that like, you know, hey, shit happens. Life is tough. And some of those have kept chugging away on their projects and just haven't delivered the final product yet, but are still working on it. And there's others that have gone radio silent. Like, there is a reason that Kickstarter gives you that warning. It is an angel investment system. You're not buying anything. Yeah. You're putting money behind a product, hoping that you get a final product. And and David's one of those ones that's on the list, like Sean Pryor, like, you know, some other people I backed, where every time I backed it, I've gotten exactly what I was told was going to come my way. So, yeah.
Well, I consider it that, like, you know, it's your reputation. Really, you know, I mean, Kickstarter is a wonderful place it's a wonderful platform. It's a wonderful way to make comics in a way that like is financially feasible, you know, and at the same time, you're kind of, the only thing you carry with you from project to project is your rep. And so I'm a big believer in, like, you got to deliver what you promised. And I get that life happens. I mean, and so you try to communicate, you know, if there's any delays. I mean, that's, you know, and then you just try to kind of make sure you don't overpromise anything. You know, that's part of the reason, you know, that we took a year in between Kickstarters, is we wanted to give Ruben, you know, enough runway to really kind of get a good critical mass of artwork going, especially because, you know, we're in a pandemic, and you know, things happen in a pandemic, and so, you know, our production schedule certainly has been affected by the pandemic. I mean, Ruben's out in Spain, and so that they've been hit pretty hard with COVID out in his neck of the woods. But yeah, you know, I think the Kickstarter community, I think, has a pretty good track record of getting everybody's stuff, you know, delivered in a timely fashion. Yep. And yeah, there's a couple of bad apples that, you know, a little, you know, they might be pulling a grift, but I think, you know, 99% of comics Kickstarter projects, they're people who are just passionate, and whether, you know, it's delivered on time, or, you know, if life gets in the way and they're a little bit behind schedule, most Kickstarter backers, I think they're just as anxious to deliver as you are to receive it.
Well, the thing
I've also got stuff like 2 years later, and it's like, but hey, they still got it out. Like, it just, sometimes it just took a little longer. Because Kickstarter is big. Like, it can get big and scary real damn quick if you're not prepared for it. Yeah,
that is, I will say, that is a big thing that I think I've seen a couple of cautionary tales with it. People who, like, they don't quite understand what goes into it. Mm-hmm. You know, and there's a lot of moving parts. I thought for me it was a huge learning curve. I'm used to kind of writing. Obviously, I'm used to writing my books. That's my job. And I'm used to kind of, staffing and editing them just because I've worked in independent comics. And so like, Scouts Honor is the only book that I've worked on that's had like an actual editor.
An actual editor.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I'm not knocking Action Lab, but like they just, they just don't have the bandwidth for that sort of thing. Like their editing is sort of a quick once over for typos and making sure that it's like print ready. I'd never worked with a printer. I had never worked on shipping and fulfillment. And so now that I've done that, though, it's very empowering. And I'm kind of like, if I have an idea now, I don't have to wait for permission. But that's also, I've been on the outskirts of the industry in some capacity for, almost a decade and a half. For somebody who's just sort of dipping their toes in the pool, there's a lot that you can miss. There's a lot of things that you can screw up on. And so yeah, I've seen occasionally like people who just like they don't know what they're doing, and that can wind up being an issue. But usually, like that's why I think have you backed projects before? I think that's a big litmus test for a lot of people, is because in theory, if you've backed a lot of Kickstarter projects, you know kind of what the expectation is, and you know what the level of like professionalism is, and yeah, but at the same time, I think it's, I've always found that it's kind of cool to sometimes see like an artifact of like a creator when they didn't quite know what they were doing as much. I mean, you think of like Rick Remender's first book was a book called like Captain Dingleberry, like
Oh, yeah.
I think the idea of somebody having that, like when you see how far he's come, like that's a cool little artifact. So even books that are sort of a little, the rare books that are a little more jankily put together, even that, I think there's a place for that, because it's ultimately it's about supporting independent artists, regardless of sort of where their experience level's at. And I think that's kind of cool. I think it's a level of interactivity and a level of giving back to the industry that it certainly makes me feel closer to the comics industry as a whole.
And it's interesting to see that work now, especially when people are not necessarily as focused on projects from the big companies and they're more interested in, I want to find these indie creator driven projects and things like that. And I think Kickstarter and Indiegogo have opened a huge platform for that, where people open their eyes to things they never would have thought of reading before, because like, oh wow, this sounds really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's true independent comics, and it's one, I think it's very courageous for creators to be rolling the dice on themselves on a platform like Kickstarter. And, the fact that, most projects get funded, that's super cool. And I think it's a way of, I know everybody talks about how do you break into the industry, and I think Kickstarter really is kind of one of the best ways to do that now. It's sort of, you get to make a book and you can distribute it to people, and you get to kind of learn all the different elements that are important to learning how to make a comic. And more importantly, then you have a comic. And that's really, every time somebody says, how do you break in? That's how you break in. It's
make a comic. Yeah.
You make a comic.
If you want to make comics, make comics.
Exactly. Like, you don't have to wait for a publisher anymore. You can be your own publisher. And I think that's something that's really cool. And yeah, just kind of, I'm thrilled to be part of the Kickstarter community, as a result.
So one of the things that I would love to see out there, and it may actually exist and I'm not aware of it, is people who are smart with Kickstarter who have done it, that could basically be like Kickstarter boot camp. Be like, hey, you're looking at doing it. Here's some things you may want to consider, because it's not as simple. I don't mean to say simple as in it's easy to do.
They're called Comics Tribe.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I've followed a whole bunch of their stuff, and they literally do boot camp for Kickstarters.
Yes,
Yeah,
Tyler James is a really smart guy. He gave me some very necessary advice during my last Kickstarter. I mean, thankfully, I've been friends with the Comics Tribe people for a long time. Joe Mulvey has done variant covers for me for a very long time. He did actually a pinup in the first issue of the OZ. And I remember asking Tyler when we got funded, I said, well, what do I do? Should I cool it because we've been funded, or should I keep kind of ringing the bell? And he was like, you need to leave it all out on the field. You need to be selling this as hard as you can, because that's the thing about Kickstarter is the sales ceiling and the sales floor, they're fairly variable. And the more people that you have on board for your first issue, that means that your sales floor rises that much higher for your next issue. And so, he was telling me that, this book, it's not just about the money, it's about the reputation. And it's not just about your reputation, it's about your team's reputation. And so that's something that I've really kind of taken to heart. I mean, I usually do this for my direct market books as well, but even for Kickstarter, is just reminding yourself, this is not a one-man project. This is the OZ is just as responsible, for Ruben Rojas and Whitney Kogar and Dave Hopkins. Their contributions are just as responsible for that book as mine. And so that's part of the reason why I want to make it a point to always talk them up and to talk this book up, is because it's our reputation collectively.
Yep.
So I think, the Comics Tribe people, if you're ever thinking about doing a comics Kickstarter, I wholeheartedly recommend that you follow them. They've got their Comics Launch or Comics Launchers podcast that Tyler goes into a lot of great detail with that. And keep an eye out on it, because he and I are talking to see if we can find a time for me to chat during the OZ's campaign.
Ooh.
Nice.
Nice. But yeah, Tyler's just he's a very smart guy. And if you have any interest in launching a successful comics Kickstarter, listening to his podcast or signing up for any of his classes is definitely a good investment.
Yeah, I'd say not even necessarily a comics Kickstarter. I'd say almost any Kickstarter. Just the general knowledge they have of Kickstarter, as someone that's launched 2 and funded 1 and had 1 fail, I learned a lot along the way, but I also learned a lot from their classes. So. And mine were just, sketchbooks. They weren't even, comics. It was just artwork in a book, just basically trying to print a pamphlet and send it out to people. And I learned a ton listening to that podcast and looking at their website. So they got a lot of information out there. And they have a lot of practice. They run a hell of a lot of Kickstarters.
Yeah.
That's cool.
They're very smart. And they just wrapped up a Kickstarter actually yesterday for their book, Happy Hill. So I'm sure I wouldn't be shocked if they were doing a backer kit or a CrowdOx page that you can, if you missed the first campaign, you can still order the book. Joe Mulvey and Rich Duke. It's just.
Speaking of which, I believe the OZ has a backer kit link on the Kickstarter page as well, doesn't it? If you did miss the first issue and don't want to wait a week.
If you did miss the first issue and you don't want to wait a week, there's still our backer kit page, so you can still order the first issue. We'll send those out as soon as we can. You can get the first issue. You can get any of our variant covers. If you want to wait for the Kickstarter, then you can get both issues. Or if you just got digital last time and you're feeling a little buyer's remorse that you didn't get a physical copy, we will have catch-up tiers available in the next Kickstarter for both issue 1 and issue 2, or a full complete set of all of the covers that we've done so far. So that's
man,
9. That's 9 covers currently. We've got a few of those where you're like, oh, I didn't get all 4 covers last time. I can get 9 now, and we'll do that as long as supplies last. And honestly, if the demand is high enough, we'll do a second printing. Thankfully, we're working with Comic Impressions, our printer from the last time, and so I know Rich Boy over there. He's super kind, super easy to work with, and we're working on some ways to even streamline the process further to see if there are ways to really accelerate our delivery runway to make sure that people get their rewards in their hands as soon as we can get them.
Nice.
Fantastic.
The sticker's still available too. Monkey C, Monkey Doom.
Yes, I was
I love that sticker. It's one of my favorite sketchbook stickers. I get Kickstarter stickers to just cover my sketchbooks, and the Flying Monkey Squadron, Monkey C, Monkey Doom is one of my favorite ones. I fucking love that sticker.
Thank you. We've got all of our add-ons available for purchase. We have a sticker. We have an enamel pin for our winged monkeys. We've got our print by Akira Okamoto. You might have seen their work recently on Radiant Black.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, Akira did a cover on Radiant Radiant Black recently, and I think also for Firepower over at Skybound. So Kira is a talent that's really up and coming, and I'm so glad that we've been in contact for a while. They're a big fan of my first book, Spencer and Locke, and so I reached out and I was like, hey, do you want to do something for us? We've got trying to remember if there's anything else. As I said, it's not even 9 a.m. my time.
Right.
But yeah, it's lots of fun rewards to share. And yeah, we've got a few cool things in store as well. Like I said, for stretch goals for the next campaign. So
that's exciting.
Yeah, very exciting.
And Go Live is 8 days away as we record this. It's the 16th, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
The 16th. So we're gonna start bright and early that morning, and yeah, we're excited to see kind of how everything goes with that.
Well, it's exciting. I will have to set myself a calendar reminder that morning, so I make sure to go check.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure I'll see you tweeting about it though too. So Twitter will probably save me.
Yes, you will all see me tweeting about it. You'll all see me Facebooking and even Instagramming about it. But yeah, it's always a little, you feel that little pit in your stomach a little bit
Sure.
before any project drops, and you never know kind of what the expectations are. But I feel like our Yellow Brick Road Warriors, they haven't let us down yet. They smashed through every single goal we had last time, and yeah, I'm hoping they'll come back for more. I think everybody's reaction to that book the first issue seems to be fairly positive, and I will say I really do think that the second issue is better than the first. I think we've had time to kind of learn and grow from one another, and while I've had the book written for quite some time, Ruben is still now he knows the characters, and Whitney knows his style. And, and I'd like to think that I've learned a little bit about, being a little tighter with my dialogue, that Dave Hopkins has been so accommodating with. And, yeah, I think, that's the cool thing about working in comics, at least for me as a creator, is kind of realizing growth and realizing like, oh, okay, like, this is what we were capable of doing a year ago. And this is what we're capable of doing now. And, it's inch by inch. But, I think we're really improving as storytellers and as creators. And I think seeing my team, just the way that they're evolving, it's really encouraging and exciting to see.
Well, I know we're all excited for it. And I know we're all obviously going to be pulling for you because we've enjoyed getting to hear about this and all the other projects you've been working on. So for what it's worth, we're on your side and we're rooting for you, David.
Thank you. No,
you'll have a super backer day one. That much I can guarantee.
Well, that's what I appreciate it, fellas. Thank you so much.
And for those who are wanting more information, we'll put it in the show notes, but it's bit.ly/theozcomic. It'll be in the show notes. We'll make sure we're tweeting stuff the day it goes live. So if you're following any of us or the show account, you'll be able to find all that information as well.
Yeah. And another link that also works, because sometimes people get confused. So I actually have two links. You can also do the OZ Comic 2 if you want to make sure that like you're like, oh, I don't know which comic I'm going to. Both of those links work. They will both take you to the same page. So just tell your friends, spread the word, and any amount counts. So feel free to back to your heart's content.
Well, don't worry, we will.
I have two things.
Yeah.
One's a compliment. The second's a question.
Yeah.
First, I appreciate your use of grift earlier, because the only other time I've ever heard that word was in Baywatch with The Rock and Zac Efron. They're grifting out there. And two, who is the favorite Dorothy? Judy Garland or Fairuza Balk?
Well, I mean, having read my stuff, I mean, like, I think the answer is a little self-evident that, of course, it's Fairuza Balk. But I mean, I recognize that I'm in the minority there.
I'm with you.
Judy Garland's iconic, and she's really kind of part of the reason why this series works. The Wizard of Oz is like cultural osmosis thanks to the Judy Garland film. And I think Ruby is being Ruby does not appreciate your line of questioning. For me, it's of course, Return to Oz is such a big influence on this book. I'm a huge fan of. It sort of took these kind of iconic archetypes and twisted them and did remixes with them. I mean, I think it's no secret that like Jack Pumpkinhead plays like a huge role in this in our book, and that's because of Return to Oz. So yeah, I think I like having a little bit of edge to it, but at the same time, without having the original, then the edge doesn't make any sense. So I think you could. I'm a big Fairuza Balk fan, but you could go.
I mean, I'm oddly attracted to her ever since I saw The Waterboy. Not gonna lie, not watching Return to Oz because she was age appropriate for Dorothy. That's weird.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Judy Garland, you weren't age appropriate.
And for me, it was age appropriate when The Craft came out. That was where the love of Fairuza Balk really started.
Oh yeah, I don't think I was too young to watch The Craft. I probably did watch it, but I was too young to really attach to it. But The Waterboy, that was perfect.
I'm pretty sure I was in high school and they were playing high schooler characters. So yeah, she was pretty hot in that.
On that note, I think we are going to transition and go and talk some news here. David, I don't know if you're busy this morning. You're welcome to hang out with us if you want and discuss.
Oh man, I would love to, but we have to take Ruby to daycare.
Oh well.
So, thank you guys so much for having me.
Oh, anytime.
And yeah, maybe we will pick this up as the campaign is going on. But yeah, thank you fellas so much for having me. And yes, if you're watching, join us as a Yellow Brick Road warrior. Back the OZ starting August 16th.
You heard it here first, folks. Make sure you go and back the project. And David, thanks for waking up early and spending time with us today. We do appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks.
You too, man.
It's always fun when David joins us.
Of course.
And for those of you that are watching live, we'll
answer.
also try and post just a video of us talking with David about the project so that he can use that and we can use it to push out the OZ and have people pick it up that way.
More flying monkeys. We always need more flying
The
monkeys.
flying monkey pen's fantastic. I bought one and it's on my bag that I take to work. Now, caveat being I don't go to the office anymore. So that bag just sits down here in my basement.
When you go where? What is this?
Yeah.
Outside? What?
I've been
I don't believe
Well, the
you.
bag doesn't go somewhere. He does.
Yeah, well, I've been very lucky in the fact that our work has kind of said, hey, telework was actually working for a lot of what you guys were doing. So even when we get into reintegration, we're probably still going to let you guys telework. And instead of maybe being 5 days a week at home, you might go to 4 days a week at home or come in as needed. So I'm cautiously optimistic that I'll continue to work out of my basement office.
Yeah, surprise. Workflow is actually all right when you do this. Surprise! Those crazy Europeans might have had something all along.
Look, all I know is it cuts off a 45-minute drive each way for me, which saves me a lot of time.
There you
A
go.
lot of time.
I do not miss a 45-minute commute. Yeah, I know how much you're loving it.
I didn't mind it so much in the morning because that was generally my podcast time and coffee time. But at the end of the day, when it was time to go home, I was like, oh, God, I got to drive home 45 minutes.
I mean, I got to drive through North Carolina. You had to drive through West Virginia.
Well, I mean, it was just all interstate, so it really wasn't hard.
Yeah, but it was still West Virginia.
West by
I
God,
don't-
Virginia. Thank you very much.
Don't hurt yourself saying it. Jeez.
It's a beautiful state
Already
here,
hurting
Willie.
as it
It's
is.
a beautiful state. That being said, we had a really
Yeah,
good
for
chat.
meth.
That's fair. We did have a really good chat with David there. Went almost about an hour long. So we've got roughly 30 minutes here for us to power through some news of the week and what we're getting into to try and stay close to regular show times. So on that note, why don't
Sounds
we kick
good.
things off and move on in to the news.
Live from the ATGN studios on the internet, it's the news of the week.
Welcome to the news of the week. It's that part of the show where we run down what's in our minds the most interesting, geeky, or nerdy news that popped up here in the last week and share it with you guys who are watching live or listening at a later date. I'm going to go first just because it's kind of an interesting follow-up story from one I think I've told on this show before and also on the official GonnaGeek.com show before. But I believe previously on here, I had talked about how there had been a record-setting sale of a Super Mario Brothers game that was sealed in box for like $1.25 or $1.4 million. Yeah, that record got broken over this last week. From an article at Polygon.com, a rare copy of Super Mario Brothers sold for $2 million on Friday. the highest price ever paid for the single video game, according to an announcement from collectibles website Rally. What made the sale unique other than its price is how it was sold. An anonymous buyer purchased the collectible from Rally, which had sold shares in the copy of the game to investors. According to the report from the New York Times, the buyer offered $2 million for the copy, a factory sealed, professionally graded, and part of a limited print run, and the sale was approved by shareholders in the NES game. That's right, Rally's business. Investors can purchase shares of expensive collectibles like baseball cards, comic books, cars, and dinosaur skulls instead of buying them outright. So whoever bought this basically paid a bunch of folks split shares of $2 million. So this is kind of interesting that I didn't realize there was a service like this. It's kind of like buying shares in collectibles to sell them, which would be, so say in theory, the three of us decided we wanted to get in on Amazing Fantasy number 15, one that was graded really high, and we were going to split it 3 ways. This is kind of an official way to do that, which is this company acts as the middleman, arguably takes their own cut on top of that, but then splits out the dividends amongst everyone that was involved. I think it's kind of intriguing, but I'm not sure that this is a business model that people need. Like, oh my God, I'm going to sell all my collectibles this way.
I mean, I instantly like the idea, but you know what it also instantly reminded me of?
What's that?
Class action lawsuit. Here's your $5, everybody.
Uh-huh.
Kind of sounds like kind of.
I mean, I don't know enough about how Rally works other than just reading through the headline here and things like that, but it's intriguing that it's effectively like you're buying a share in this collectible, and with this share, you then cash out when we decide to sell it. And what I thought was interesting in there was effectively everyone who had a share had to vote as to whether to sell for $2 million. So in theory, if they didn't have that threshold to say, yay, verily, we're going to sell, it wouldn't have sold. And they would have kept it on the market and waited until someone else came and offered money.
Oh, God, then everyone's going to hate George because George keeps saying no. Why are you saying no? It's like you have it in your hands, George.
I'm
Just
still
say
trying
yes.
to wrap. I'm still trying to wrap my head around paying more than $1 million for a sealed copy of a video game from like 1990. Like what?
Sealed, graded,
Why?
and part of a short run, I guess, evidently. So it's probably some weird variant of the box or the cartridge or something like that. I don't understand. And this is not
I
me
don't even
taking,
know how that's worth anything.
Yeah, this is not me taking a shot. Everyone collects what they collect. We've got comic book graders
Yeah.
love to get things in slabs and have them graded. We've got people to do trading cards and do it that way. I've never quite understood the video game side of the house because a video game in a box looks cool, but I mean, I guess the same principle as slab in a comic. It looks cool, but you
Yeah.
can't really do anything with it.
Exactly, yeah, because a slab comic, I mean, you can at least look at the cover, but yeah, you can't read it if it's slabbed.
I mean, I do
Or,
have
yeah,
a
if
few
you got,
slabbed
I
comics,
guess a
but not a
slab
ton.
game. Yeah, that just seems weird.
But I'm also not a game collector or a game chaser, to use the term that many, or to rip off the YouTube channel name. I don't go and collect games. I think it's awesome for people to do. I just don't need another thing I collect, is what it comes down to. So
Yeah,
it's
looking
more.
at your wall. That's correct.
I'm sorry.
You're looking at your wall. That's pretty correct.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Should take you upstairs sometime if you ever come in here and see all the collectibles up there. But yeah, your games
You
is
gotta
just
butter
not.
me up, big boy.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know.
Sorry, Chris. I'm sorry.
You really threw me off my game right there. I'm not quite sure what to do now.
Well, you threw in a good time for me. I was like, okay.
You got his biscuits all buttery. Now I don't know what to do.
I do love biscuits,
They
by
are.
the way.
I mean, who doesn't like some soggy, moist biscuits?
No, I do
Oh,
actually.
you don't
have,
eat your biscuits with gravy? Oh, come on. You're in the
Because-
South. You know you do.
because I haven't cleaned anything up. I do actually have 2 slab books sitting right here. There's an X-Men Messiah Complex number 1, 9.8 CGC grade that I picked up for $10 at a con, just because I like the cover. It was hanging on my wall, and then
Nice.
Fair enough. $10. I can't blame you.
somehow this got scratched on the outside a little bit. But Batman and Robin number 1 CGC graded 9.8, just because I loved the run with Dick Grayson as Batman.
Nice. That is a good one. Yeah, and that Frank Quietly cover is a solid cover.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a good cover to have.
His
to have
artwork throughout
slabbed.
that entire book is fantastic.
Yeah.
And how much did you pay for the second one?
25 or 20, I think it was.
Oh,
So
okay.
it
Oh,
wasn't
that
terrible.
seems worth
Yeah.
it.
And I
That
bought it
seems
as
not
wall
bad.
art
It was
because
graded.
I actually have frames upstairs that were custom made. I can't remember the website that did it. They're designed to hold CGC books. Like you
Yeah.
slide them into the frames. And until I got some other ones, these were hanging on my wall upstairs on my comic wall.
I'm not surprised.
Well, that's
that
my
company
that's my
makes the
news for this
frames.
week. A copy of Mario sold for $2 million, and however many shareholders there were on it got paid out too. I didn't dig in enough to see how many shareholders there were. Although it would be intriguing to see what it would have cost to buy a share of that before it went for sale.
Huh?
Because I guess then technically you could humble brag and be like, yeah, I own a sealed copy of Super Mario Brothers on the SNES.
George,
9.8
for the
graded.
last time, you don't actually own it. You can't take it and play it. What are you doing here, George? No one likes you.
As in Costanza? I'm very confused.
I don't know why he keeps yelling at George. Yeah, I don't
I
get it.
love George Costanza, but he's also a prick.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Well, let's be honest, though.
The
Pretty
whole
much
point, right?
everyone on Seinfeld is a terrible person to some extent.
This-
Not the
this is
actors, the
true.
characters.
Well,
No,
you
they're
know
all
who's
terrible.
the best character who always acted the most humblest? Newman,
I'm not a huge Seinfeld guy.
aka Wayne Knight.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember the name on top of my head because of Space Jam. Duh.
Willie just
The
remembered
original
it
Space
because he
Jam.
loves the new Space Jam a lot.
I still haven't seen it.
I haven't either.
I mean, I'm not against seeing it.
It's
I-
better
all
than the
I'm saying-
original.
It's like I
but
said,
that's
people
a
need to
low
remember,
bar.
we aren't the target audience for Space Jam. Remember, if we're not the target, kids that are like a third our age are the target.
All right. Hold on a second. The first CD I ever owned was Space Jam, the soundtrack.
No, it was Jock Jams Volume 2.
I'm talking about me, not.
I'm talking about you.
Jock
I know
Jams
it was Jock Jams.
I've never owned a Jock Jams. Look at my body
It was
weight. Do you
Jock
think I'll
Jams Volume
listen
2,
to Jock
Willie.
Jams?
Oh, we know you listen to Jock Jams.
I mean, I probably do listen to whatever is considered Jock Jams. Are you saying you too don't enjoy Eye of the Tiger?
Of course I do, but that's neither here
That's
nor
what I
there.
thought.
Mm.
You're into Jock Jams as well.
I had one of the Jock Jams CDs at one point in time. That's correct.
Because you know what? Because that's now what I'm talking about music.
Volume 97.
Mm-hmm.
It's better than Kids Bop.
Oh, God. So, Willie, what do
Low
you got?
bar. Once again, low bar.
What do you got for your news for us? Let's move on to the next one.
I was going to keep it short and sweet because I didn't want to detract from the guest because that was way more important. Also, we're probably going to be talking about something a lot more a little bit later on.
Mm-hmm.
Foreboding, foreshadowing. So my short news is it's actually kind of good news for me, I guess, kind of. But Horizon Forbidden West, the PlayStation sequel exclusive game made by Guerrilla Games, has been pushed back to 2022. So if you're looking forward to that game, it's now pushed back. For me personally, I don't have a PS5, so I'm all right with it being pushed back. I think it's worth waiting for because that's what I'm also doing to Miles Morales. I'm refusing to play that game on the PS4. I want to wait for it till I get it for the PS5. I mean, I would want to play it, but it's going to be a nice little treat for when I do get a PS5. Like, so I have something instantly that I can go. "Ooh."
Willie, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for you that you
And
get your
it is a fun
PS5.
one.
I mean, I don't. If it shows up, it shows. I'm not like I need to find one. It's whatever. It happens. It happens. I'm not in a rush. PS4 is doing just fine. I'm having no problems.
That's fair.
So, yeah. But Horizon's, I keep wanting to say Horizon Zero West because the first game is Horizon Zero Dawn. The next one, they go a little bit further west. I think the first game takes place in Utah, like a Utah